Is it possible to have a zero down loan on a house? Well, yes, it is. So there are options out there for people who are looking for a zero down loan. And what that means is basically that you would still have your closing costs, but you would not have to come to closing with your down payment, which can be a lot. It can be anywhere from 3% to 20% or even more if you wanted to put more down. But most loans require a certain minimum down payment from a buyer. And there are those other loans out there that are available, but they do have some restrictions and requirements from the buyer. And so you have to pay attention to those things, and you have to make sure that you actually qualify for that particular loan type. But they are out there, and that would mean that you would come with zero down payment in order to buy that house. And so you would still have your closing costs that you would be responsible for, and you still would pay for inspections to make sure you do your due diligence and make sure that you are okay with what's going on with that house, or maybe you can negotiate some repairs with that seller. You may still have an appraisal fee, so there's that, and you could still have a survey that you might have to cover, but that would be part of your closing costs as well. But that down payment could be a big old chunk of money that you might not have to bring to the table. Some examples of situations where there are zero down opportunities for buyers are if you're a veteran. There are some zero down loans out there for veterans, which are great. Also, there are some local banks that every now and then will have these different programs where they will have a conventional loan. And the conventional loan, a lot of times those banks won't require a survey, which I would still suggest that you get one, but sometimes they don't make you purchase a survey. And then also, sometimes those local banks will have a conventional loan that they do not charge mortgage insurance on. So typically when you have a conventional loan, you have to have at least 20% down in order to not pay that PMI on your mortgage payment monthly. But some banks on occasion will have a program where they have a conventional loan that does not require that PMI. So that is huge. And the reason you want a conventional loan is because if you have an FHA loan, then what happens with that is that you will have the mortgage insurance on the life of that loan. So sometimes that's the only route that you can go. And some of the zero down loans are basically an FHA product because they are government backed loans. Some of them are through the state. There's all different kinds of loans out there and all different types that you may or may not qualify for depending on your income. Sometimes it's not that you have to make so much, it's you have to make under a certain amount. So it just depends on the lender, the loan program, and what they're looking at for you. But if you think you might be interested in a zero down loan, let me know and we can connect you with local lenders who will take excellent care of you, and they will have you fill out an application. They'll check all the requirements and they'll tell you, here are all of your options. And some of those could be a zero down loan. Now, let me just say one word of caution here. Sometimes in the past, I have had clients that, it's great if you can have zero down, because if you can get a seller to help pay for your closing costs and you just have to come up with like inspection money and maybe a little bit of closing costs and maybe an appraisal or something like that. But for the most part, if you got a seller to help you, you could come to the closing table with very little money. And sometimes I've even seen people get money back. They put their earnest money down, and then by the time everything got worked out with whatever loan program they had, they actually got money back at closing. So there are some pretty cool sounding options out there. But one thing I would caution you with is that I have had people in the past who have done that. They have kind of barely qualified, they did the zero down, then they got into a house that maybe they really couldn't afford. Now on paper, sometimes you can afford it, but if you're not someone who is, saved your closing costs and saved your down payment and really worked to have a great credit score, and you've not really been focused on your financial health, and then you buy a house with zero down and you don't have savings, you could get in a real bind if something goes wrong with that house. I mean, a water heater is kind of expensive. HVAC even more so. What if your oven dies? I mean, maybe you can go to Lowe's and get you a new oven if that happens. But what if your roof has a problem? Or your HVAC, I mean, that's super expensive. So You just want to make sure that just because you can get into a home, that really it's the right timing and that you can manage the costs that come along with that home once you get it. So the only caution that I have about a zero down loan would be just because you don't have to bring a lot of money to the table, you still want to make sure that you personally are very prepared to be a homeowner so that you don't end up in a bind and have a lot of expenses that you just can't afford. So I think it's really important to check out a zero down loan. If that's an option for you, it might enable you to buy a house and go in and replace the carpet right away because you didn't have to bring that money to closing. Or maybe the house is great, but the kitchen has really bad countertops and you need to go in and replace those. And you can use some of that money that you would have had to bring to closing. Instead of bringing them to closing, you can go do some repairs on the house or some upgrades or whatever. So there's a lot of options out there, and we can connect you with great local lenders who can tell you all about those options. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and if you know someone who you think this might be helpful for, please share it. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.